Hello. Sorry about the scruffiness. Don't really have time to shave today, but I wanted to make a video, so here I am. What I wanted to talk about today is, what is the value of life? Let's ponder that together. What makes life valuable? What makes one life more valuable than the other? So I'm not talking human life. I'm talking all life. Plants, animals, anything that's alive. I want to talk about that because many of us, as we explore ourselves spiritually, go inward into stillness, tap into our true selves, that which we truly are, one can't help but start to feel connected to everything, or if they always did feel connected, even more deeply connected, and an understanding starts to happen. For me, and this isn't a belief, this is a knowing, for me, my life is of no more value than that of, say, your garden variety ant. I really feel that way. My life, I am no more special than an ant. We're just special in different ways. But we are all expressions of consciousness. The trees, the plants, the animals, people, viruses, everything that's alive. And so I wanted to pose that, plant that seed, because there's still a lot of people that do see a difference, where they would value the life of people and maybe even pets and certain animals, where other animals not so much. And especially when we get down to living things such as plants, or especially insects, or things, creepy crawlies or snakes or things like that. So if you're one who still finds yourself killing flies or killing mice, I invite you, this isn't to tell you you're wrong, and this isn't, because there is no right and wrong, and this isn't to tell you you have to change, but if you're watching this video, you're already on a journey of self-exploration, and you are changing. That's the nature of the universe. So this is a seed, and if it resonates with you, great. And so you might want to just let that marinate. For me, there's no difference. I mean, sometimes we accidentally harm other living things. We can't help that. We can't never, because sometimes you don't know you stepped on an ant, or sometimes you don't know you just killed a virus or killed something. You don't know what it is, or a bacteria, or I don't know, whatever it is. So we can only do our best. But when we know, like I still see lots of people that buy those traps for mice because they don't want mice in the house. And especially the ones, there's some really cruel ones. Especially think about cruelty. I mean, if you are going to take a life of, say, a mouse, again, I invite you to re-examine that. But if you're going to, at least do it humanely. We see ones where they poison them. I mean, is that humane? Or the ones where they get stuck on a mat and there's an acid or something that eats away at them. I mean, it's terrible. At least the old-fashioned ones, the pin would come down, and if the mouse was in the right spot, it might crack them on the spine and kill them instantly. If they were in the right spot. I've seen some where it gets gets them in the leg and they suffer, they break their leg and they drag it around. So if you're going to do that, at least be humane, but rethink it, because there are other ways. People just, first of all, these kind of creatures and things, they're of no harm to us. So it's good to try to remember that as well. Okay, you're afraid of mice, but honestly, that's just your mind. A mouse isn't going to do anything to you. And there are other ways. For example, my house, I have cats. And my cats actually don't kill. They do still like to kill and eat flies because they're cats and they can't help it. To them, it's a flying candy. They seem to like the flavor and they like the game of it. So I can't really do anything about that. But our animals, our pets really do start to take on our traits and our vibrations. And my cats are a perfect example of that. They don't kill mice. They will play with them a little bit, but they won't hurt them. And I do believe that's the vibration that I've set. And also, when you have cats, at least in this household, the mice start to learn and they just don't come in. So I don't have to deal with mice because the mice know. So there's no killing of mice here. The mice just know to stay behind the walls. And we also have bats, and for the most part, the bats stay behind the walls. And when they do come in, I release them. I've actually posted a video way back last summer, a funny video showing me catching a bat and releasing it. So for me personally, and some people may think it's silly, I release like flies. I release them, fruit flies even. There's ways to do it. You can put something syrupy or sugary in a glass, have a saucer nearby, all the fruit flies start to go inside, put the saucer on top, trap them, open a window, let them out. If you got a lot, it takes some time, but it can be done. So there's ways, is all I'm saying. There's lots of ways. It's really just a combination, I think, of laziness or just not wanting to deal with the idea of what to do with these critters, etc. Could be lots of reasons, but there's even a reward in taking the time to release them humanely. You know what I mean? You feel good about it. So I release, and when it comes to spiders, there's a lot of people afraid of spiders. Spiders can't hurt you. Okay, occasionally there's a certain kind that can bite you, but honestly, I've lived with spiders. Everywhere I've been, I never kill spiders, and I don't tear down, unless they get overwhelmingly big, I don't tear down their webs. So in my household, you will see webs. And the spiders never bother me. They never crawl on me. They leave me alone. It's like there's an understanding. They leave me alone. I don't even see them anymore. I used to see them years and years and years ago. Occasionally you'd see them crawling across the table, but now I only see them in their homes. Once in a blue moon you might see them hanging, but I almost never see them now. They just stay out of my way. I leave them alone and they leave me alone. It's just a vibration. So I live in harmony with the critters. There's tons of critters. This is an old converted farmhouse here in Hamilton, in a very in an area that's close to the trail. Lots of trees, lots of bushes. I mean, in this part of Hamilton, it's almost, even though there's lots of houses and businesses, it's kind of like living in the country a little bit. We even have raccoons that still live, a family of raccoons that live under that deck, between the deck and the roof, and they've lived there in peace for the whole 9 years I've been here. And they still live there. So we have them all here. And you can live in harmony with these creatures as you stop being afraid of them. I can attest that you can live in harmony. You don't have to hurt them. You can release them, and in many cases, like I said with the spiders and the bats, they seem to know just the vibration. You leave them alone, they leave you alone. And if they don't, the fear is just in the mind again, right? We don't need to be afraid. It's not like we live in the jungle, you got to be careful. The tigers might jump out. There's no tigers here. So there's really nothing to be afraid of. So there's a way, is what I'm saying to all of that. But let's get back to the value of life. Because a lot of people, they still think, even though they value human life or certain animal life, but then they see certain snake or a mosquito. Mosquitoes, I don't, a lot of people still, they'll kill it. I don't kill it. Here's a funny story. I don't know, I love this story. A couple summers ago, I met, a lot of you may know Leah Tarunen. I hope I said her last name right. But Leah, a common staple in spiritual circles and YouTube video circles. And so her husband at the time, a wonderful man, another wonderful staple in the spiritual circles, Philippe, they held occasional meet and greets. And so I met them a couple summers ago in Toronto. And we were at Hyde Park. And it was starting to get on in the evening, and the mosquitoes were coming out. And I don't kill mosquitoes. And they generally leave me alone. Unless I'm way out in the bush, even then they'll leave me alone compared to other people. But, you know, you still might get bit once or twice. But generally they leave me alone. And so I'm talking to Leah, and and we've talked about this since, we got a good laugh about it. And her and I are talking, she's right there in front of me. And she, you know, I don't know what her stance is. I didn't see her hurt any mosquitoes or anything like that, but she is kind of grossed out, which is okay, you know. Some people are grossed out by some bugs, but I didn't see her hurt any, but she's a little grossed out about them, or at least she was at the time. But no judgment in that, but we were talking, and I mean, one of those, you know, those mosquitoes that have the big long legs? I mean, so they are kind of freaky looking, big long legs. So it was about this big with the legs. And we were talking, and all of a sudden it landed right here, right between my eyes. And her face was priceless. It was just this shock and disgust. She was like, she just couldn't believe what she was seeing, this big thing. And she said, she goes, oh, the mosquito. And I was like, and then a couple other people ran over, and they're like, get it. And I'm like, no, leave it. He's fine. So I'm talking to her, but she's having trouble concentrating because we're sitting there, and I've got this massive mosquito in the middle of my forehead. And I'm just talking, and same with the others. They were just, it was bothering them that I was just going to sit there with this mosquito. They were sure it was going to bite me. And I'm not kidding. It sat there for about a minute, 2 minutes, until somebody couldn't deal with it anymore. And they humanely, another great way, using creativity, what they just did was they came up and they blew it off my forehead. See, they didn't kill it. But I'll never forget the look. I can't even, you know, make the face she made. It was so funny, and it was just so funny, the reaction. I just couldn't believe I was just going to sit there. But yeah, so I'm not saying you have to do that. You have to let mosquitoes sit on you, you know. Like I said, you could blow them off. There's other ways. Be creative. But there's an example. So I don't, with mosquitoes, I don't kill them. So again, back to value of life. Where do we place value in life? We're all connected. We're all living things. We're all coming from the same source. So why is my life more valuable than a mosquito? Because I can make a video? Because I can paint a picture? Because I write children's books? See, that's just judgment of the mind. Why is that? I mean, all living things have a purpose, a grand purpose, in the sense of the physical. If you look at if you have to have a reason to earn your bread and butter here, everything has a reason for being here and has an effect on the environment and has a purpose. Bees have a purpose, ants have a purpose, mosquitoes have a purpose. Everything has a purpose that is in flow with this incredible Eden planet ocean. So if we have to quantify, then we would say why is mosquitoes' purpose? There's a reason they're here, so they have a purpose. But even beyond that, even if we look deeper, can't their purpose just to be? Why is that less of value? Why do they have to earn their bread and butter and do something to earn the right to be more valuable? So you see what I'm saying? We tend to do this, and again, it's all just, again, judgments of the mind. linked with fears and other things, but it's judgments. And so I invite you to contemplate that. Don't get guilty about it. I mean, just a seed to be planted. And then hopefully, if you're still eating meat, maybe down the road, you might want to reconsider that. A lot of us don't eat meat for many reasons, health reasons, lots of good reasons to do it. I actually only do it for 2 reasons. Moral reasons, because of the way animals are treated. They suffer quite a bit. I won't get into it all, but all the meat you eat, those animals are suffering. They're not treated humanely. And environmental is a huge one for me. This practice of eating meat, the planet takes a huge cost. It damages so much, it uses so much space and resources. It damages the environment and the soil from all this production of meat. I could go on and on about that, but if you're interested, research it. But the very practice of eating meat, which we know, and it's still funny we resist, we don't need to eat meat. It's not necessary. Anybody who says otherwise is either regurgitating or a lie. I don't know, or they're just highly mistaken, but it's not true. These people have been doing it forever. You don't need meat. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. Yeah, it's tasty, but it's not necessary. So lots of good reasons to do it. For me, it's moral and environmental. But moral because, again, even I'm almost off dairy now. I'm still having some. You gotta, if you are gonna make the transition, be easy on yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Okay, I gotta quit all meat. Do it at a pace that feels right. This is why it's good just to plant the seed about thinking about life and the value of life and how animals are treated, because then you'll just naturally, slowly one day go, you know what, I think I've had enough. I didn't put any pressure on myself. I knew I was headed that direction and I didn't rush myself. And when I was ready, I gave up meat. And because I didn't rush myself, which is the best way, there was no pressure, so it was actually quite easy. When we pressure ourselves, it's just like the diet thing. When we put pressures on ourselves, it's hard to achieve the things we want to do. But when we just move when the timing is right, play with the ideas and the feelings that we're having about the movement we want to make, and then let it happen naturally, then it's much easier. So I'm easing, I'm almost totally off dairy, but I'm not totally off, because that is my favorite, is dairy and cheese, particularly cheese. But I don't eat much now, and I do want to get off it, and again, it's because of the production. It's because the amount of dairy that we consume, the only way for them to do it is to do things that harm the animals, to artificially inflate their production of milk with drugs and all kinds of other things. Then there's the way in which they're kept. Cows are kept in what's called rape cages. I won't get into that, but if you're interested, research it. Etc., etc. Chickens have a terrible life. It goes on and on. Pigs, there are some exceptions, but for the most part they don't. Even organic, for the most part, because of the amount of organic that's needed now as it's catching on. Still, organic's better, but it's still a cost to the planet environmentally, and it's still the amount that they have to produce. They can't, put 6 cows in a gigantic field and let them live the life of a happy cow. It's not practical. So they have to be mass-produced and treated as such. And so that is going to be inhumane. So I also invite you to plant the seed if you're still eating meat. Don't pressure yourself, but plant the seed, because it will help the environment, and it's not necessary. And actually, the world of food opens up when you stop eating meat. It really does. There's so many things we don't eat and play with, and once you give up meat, I found that with sandwiches. One of the last things that was making me difficult to give up meat was I didn't eat a lot of meat actually for a long time, but what I did eat wasn't even really meat. It was lunch meat, which is really just dog food pressed. It's just ground up parts, and it's really the most unhealthy for you. And it's because I loved sandwiches, and I thought you can't have a sandwich without meat. It turns out once you remove those limiting 5, 6, 7 kinds of lunch meat that exist, or if you really branch out 10 or 20 tops, guess what? There's a million incredible sandwiches to make once you get rid of that crutch. And the same thing applies with eating in general. There's so many herbs and grains and vegetables and fruits and things out there to play with. And so once you eliminate meat, then you'll naturally start for variety to explore, and then the world of your taste buds open up to a whole world of flavors. So there's lots of reasons to do it, lots of pluses. So I plant that seed too. But to get back to just the general value of life, so I invite you to contemplate that. And if you already are on that road, then awesome, good for you. Thank you for being the change. And if you're not yet, don't worry. We're not pressuring you. We're not saying you're wrong. We all ate meat, most of us, at some point. Well, there's a few exceptions. But some people are born raw or vegan or vegetarian. That's great. But the majority of us, were raised on meat. So, it is what it is. There's no right and wrong here, but we are the masters of our own experience, and we can shape our experience, and we can shape this world. We do it with vibration. We also do it by being the change. And so, for the planet's sake, it helps us too. But yeah, value. All life is valuable. How can we, if we all believe we're coming from source, from the same place, if we're all connected, then how could we possibly think that a cockroach is less of value than me? That his life has less value, its life has less value. So for me, it doesn't. I am no better than a cockroach. There, I said it. You heard it straight from Mike. He's no better than a cockroach. So, play with that. Let that marinate. All life is magical. It really is. All these life forms, they're incredible. They're no less incredible. The way, if you watch if you research animals, or or other living creatures, or watch wildlife shows, and you see how ant colonies, how the structure, and even how their own bodies work, or even bacteria and viruses or birds or anything, they're amazing. Just like our shells and these physical shells are amazing, so are they. They're incredible. They're magical. So why would we want to devalue them? And then I don't think we're there yet, but there may even become a day, and I hope we will, that we'll start to see we might choose to stop eating even fruits and vegetables, because those are living things. Now again, I'm not saying you're wrong to do so. It's a step in the right direction. But we see, and I can attest, and there's a lot of people that believe it and prove it. There's actually communities now. There used to be more individuals. Now there's actual communities of people that you hear them called sun gazers and breatharians. There's different names, but there's a lot of proof now that shows that when we're ready, humans don't require food. And I plan to test that one day. And I'm kind of proof of it too. I haven't given up food, but I barely eat. I always did. And I always had that feeling that I didn't require it. Some people think that's crazy talk, but really, is it? Because we're made of energy, right? We know that. All matter is energy. And we know that we can tap into so much. So, let me ask you a question. Does the sun need a sandwich? The sun is just a ball of energy. No, it doesn't require. It doesn't need to eat. It's just energy. So why would energy require energy, if it can get to its pure state? So one day when we can get to that place, I don't see us even needing to eat plants, because those are living things too. But, baby steps. That's a big jump. But for now, at least the ones that we know think and that we can see suffer. That's the best we can do. We can't really know how much a tomato suffers, because it's still alive even when you bite it. That's why raw people, they love it. It's fresh and it's alive. Yeah, it is. So, I don't know, would you want to be bitten into it while you're still alive? Ugh. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. Again, I'm just planting a seed. But, baby steps. I'm not telling people to stop eating. I'm not saying that. That's something that should be carefully explored, and only when you're truly called to it, which is why I haven't moved that way yet. And it probably will be a long time before I explore it. And when I do it, I'll do it very carefully. Because you have to be ready. If the mind still is in this animal state of mind and believes it's the shell and it's an animal, then you're not ready. We can't do it. because the body will think it needs food, right? So, yeah, I'm jumping all over the place here, but again, it serves us, even on a spiritual path, to value all life and to see, to feel the connection, and to value all life. It just serves our spiritual growth. Anything short of that is more of the mind. To feel that you're superior to something else, it's just a judgment of the mind. And so we want to send those judgments. We want to connect to everything, to source. And so since even the ants are source and the trees are source, then it makes sense that we would move in that direction. So I embrace you to plant those seeds. Be easy on yourselves though, but just move with what feels right at the time. But reevaluate if you find yourselves doing anything that's cruel to animals, and you can spot it right away. And if something starts to not feel right about it, don't feel guilty, but let that seed marinate, and you'll probably find one day you'll change your practices. Because, when I was a kid, I used to smack a mosquito. So, it took time. And for me, it was, and as you go deeper inward, less decisions have to be made. You make movements. So it's not like I started making all these decisions. It's more just movements. I just feel. It's not like a lot of thought goes into it. I couldn't even remember so long ago when I decided to stop even killing bugs, which was decades ago. I don't even think it was a real decision. I just one day went, nah, I don't want to hurt that. So it just comes natural. So you don't have to worry. It'll all come natural. But I just wanted to plant the seed. Let's really reevaluate the value of life. Because isn't all life equally valuable? And if not, then who's to say that just, think about it. Sometimes when people really stand rigid on that, sometimes you meet people that are still believe that, we're superior to animals, or that we're just bugs and bugs are worthless. Well, what I like to tell them is there's a lot of people, and we see those are the people that do so much damage in the world, the powers that be that have been causing wars just for personal gain, and that really decide when so many die and do so many things, they think we're bugs. Right? So the next time you're going to squish a bug, just remember that there's people out there that feel the same way about us, about the average person, that feel they're superior. So it's just another seed to be planted. So you might squish an ant, somebody might feel you're an ant, squish you. So it's kind of that old saying, do unto others as you would have them unto you. You don't want somebody who thinks they're superior to you hurting you, so why would you judge other things as inferior? So let's value life, let's be the change, let's at least plant those seeds. Love and light.